All right, hello, and welcome to project stream number 18, I think this is. Today, we are doing some more conlanging. I'm gonna adjust the screen a little bit, I'm realizing. That is not where I want it to be. That's a little bit better. All right, so we've been working on this conlang for a few weeks now. This is what I've been calling, it's the only label I have for it so far is not another PIE lang, because it is yet another language that derives from Proto-Indo-European that I am making. And the goals here, if we want to revisit the goals, is just fun, sounds nice, it comes from Proto-Indo-European, it comes from a spoken language. And yeah, it's just for fun. There's no like overarching like thing I want it to be used for or anything like that. It's just for fun, just the fun of making it. So I'm just gonna resize a little bit more. Last time we worked on this, we were talking about noun declension, and we kind of figured out how that's going to work, and I'll revisit that and talk about that a little bit more today. But first, I'm going to talk about announcements. So the first one is that I have a Patreon. I've mentioned this the last few times, but for a long time I didn't have a Patreon, so I'm re-announcing it again today. Well, not re-announcing it, but just a reminder that that exists. And I want to give a special shout out to FishyLawnGnome for being my first Patreon supporter. Thank you, Fishy. Really appreciate the support. So you can also find that on my Patreon. And that is going to be linked in the video description. It's linked on Twitch already. If you go to my channel, like info, it's linked everywhere pretty much right now. The other thing you can check out is my commissions page on Buy Me a Coffee. You can do like a custom one-time donation there if you don't want to sign up for a Patreon subscription or anything like that. But I also do commissions for poetry, and I have these sort of different tiers for poems, and it's pay what you want for the actual price. These are just the suggested prices. You don't have to be stuck to those if you can't pay that full amount. And then there are also add-ons for the poems, like you can get a manuscript style version, and you can get a runic version. So yeah, that is my Buy Me a Coffee. So the last announcement is next week we are doing another Yesterlore episode on Saturday during this time, and it is going to be another ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs episode. And what we're going to be looking at is the stela of Iti, is what this is usually called, or just EA 586. You can see the number for it's the British Museum number. But we're not going to look at the whole thing. This is, if I zoom out, this is the whole thing, which is quite long. We're just going to be reading the bottom half. Which is still going to be fun to read. So that is our plan for next week. So tune in if you want to see that, or just keep a lookout for the recording on YouTube when that is done, if you cannot join during the stream. So that is what's coming up. After next week, I think we're going to be doing another journal video, if my schedule is right. Yeah. And I'm once again doing a different layout. Well, I kind of did the same layout this past journal with me was the same layout, but we did some origami as well. I hope that was fun for people, because if so, I will do more origami. But yeah, next week will be the hieroglyphs, and then the week following will be a journal with me, and I'm going to be doing something different in my journal once again. So that is all for announcements. So let's get into the conlanging for today. So what we talked about last time, we had already gotten all of the sound changes kind of figured out mostly. As I've worked on more words, I've kind of tweaked a few things downstream of some of the sound change rules. But the biggest thing I've been working on is the pronouns. So I looked at a few different sort of schemata for the declension of pronouns in Proto-Indo-European from different reconstructions, because the pronouns are one place where like not everyone agrees on what they were and how they worked. But I basically just tested out a bunch of different forms from a bunch of different paradigms and just saw which ones I liked, really, just like what they come out to in the language, which ones I actually liked the sound of. And the other thing I was keeping in mind was our declension scheme. So we have 3 cases in this conlang, and we did kind of a weird thing. We decided, and when I say we, I mostly mean I, because this is my conlang, but I'm always taking feedback from the stream chat. I have my eye on the chat if anyone has ideas. But I decided to do a weird thing where the locative kind of supersedes or becomes used as the nominative case, basically. So the subject is gonna be in the locative case, but so are locations. And it's actually going to come from that broken locative case in Proto-Indo-European. Now, the pronouns don't really have a locative case. They have some of them have a derived locative case, depending on whose reconstruction you look at. Most of them have a dative case, or all of them have a dative case. And the locative and the dative are often like sort of similar to each other. And the oblique I'm mostly taking from the accusative form, although I'm letting a bit of the nominative come in, and maybe some of the dative, depending on how it comes out and whether I like it. And then the possessive is usually coming from the genitive or ablative case. So that's what we had established, and I kind of reorganized the chart a little bit to be organized by what kind of declension it's coming from. But here, what I have are pronouns. So I have like first person singular, first person plural, second person singular, second person plural, third person singular, third person plural, and then I have a demonstrative, which I don't know if I'm going to define the singular or plural of. Because most of my nouns are not being defined by singular or plural at this point. I might change that, but I'm kind of leaning towards not doing that. But the pronouns I'm fine with distinguishing. The personal pronouns, I'm fine with distinguishing singular and plural. So what's going on here? What's going on with these forms? I'm pretty much mostly taking the locative from the dative, or if there is a locative reconstruction, I'm taking from that. And what a lot of these locatives have going on is they have this suffix in Proto-Indo-European that's like sme, or more like just me, which is kind of interesting, because that's not the usual locative ending. But for example, this one is like usmi, I believe that's what it is. And this one is ismi, and this one is like nsmi, I think, where this one comes from. And what happens is the S becomes an H between consonants, and then it goes away because it doesn't do anything to N or H, so it just becomes this. And then there's an epithetic U that came in before that. Then there's assimilation, and then the geminate goes away. So that's how we get umi. It's from nsmi. So this is like at us or to us, basically. But that becomes we as well. And I'm pretty happy with how these came out. I have where most of these come from over here. And I'm mostly just kind of ignoring the nominative ultimately because I'm not ending up using it. The nominatives for most of the pronouns end up just not being formally like any of the other cases, except for maybe like a consonant might be the same. So I'm mostly just ignoring it. But yeah, that's how this is coming out. And for some of these things, I looked at a dual and I thought about having a dual number for the pronouns, but I think I'm gonna not do that. I didn't like how they came out, and some of them clashed with the plural. With my sound changes, there were some mergers. Like, for example, the second person dual in the oblique was the same as the nominative for the or not the nominative, like I think the oblique for the these are both oblique for the second person plural and dual. Because of my sound changes, they just ended up having to be the same, which was not fun. Then what I did was I took two different demonstratives, and one of them I'm keeping a demonstrative, and then the other I'm making the third person pronoun. So that's what I decided to do there. So those are my personal pronouns and my demonstrative. I still need to figure out what I'm going to do for the interrogative pronouns, but I'm going to work on that later. What I would like to do today, now that I have these sort of pronouns, is figure out what verbs are going to look like. I want to figure out verb conjugation today. And I want to start by just looking at what things might look like in the present tense. The what is it? The active imperfective endings. So for athematic verbs, so like the older kind of just you add the endings to the root verbs. The conjugation looks something like this, and I'm ignoring the dual since I decided not to have a dual in my pronouns. I don't think I'm going to use the dual conjugations either. I think that S is right. I'm just doing this from memory right now, so if I make a mistake, that's why. I'm just doing this from memory. So what tends to happen is usually the stress is on the verb root, and then you add these to the ending. You add these to the end. But then you have a thing where for the first person plural and second person plural, something different happens where the stress is actually on the suffix. Now that doesn't always manifest, but like there is an inherent stress, and depending on the type of accent that the root has, it might stay on the root and override this, or it might not. It just kind of depends. But this kind of thing is why in certain Indo-European languages you have this weird thing that happens where all of the singular forms as well as the third person plural kind of have a similar pattern with their vowels, and then the first person plural and second person plural do not fit that pattern the same way. And this is often called like the boot in Romance languages, where you'll have like verbs that stem change only in these forms, but then they'll stay in their sort of like default form in these two forms if they exist. And that's just because the what's the word that I'm looking for? The infinitive ending also has a sort of inherent stress a lot of the time because of Latin. So that's why that happens in Romance languages. You see some things like that happen in Slavic languages where like the vowel will be the same in these forms and then it'll be like kind of wonky in these two. So that's not what I wanted to do. That's what's going on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a verb and see what happens in each of these forms. I'm going to take a root verb. Which verb do I want to do? I kind of just want to take the root for put, which I think has an H1 in there. I think that's what that is. Am I completely messed up right now? That's right, right? I think that's right. I'm gonna check. Pardon me while I check if that's the right root. Or if that's even the form that you'd use in this tense aspect combo. I think it is, but I want to be sure. Oh yeah, no. Something fell off because you're supposed to use this with perfective endings, not imperfective endings. Well, I could do that. I can check that out too. Yeah, when you do use it with these endings, it has a reduplicating prefix on it. That's interesting. Okay, I think I'll use a different root. Let's see, let's use... No, that's not what I want. That one's thematic. Never mind. Can I not think of any thematic verbs? I'm just cursed with being bad at coming up with examples off the top of my head. I think that's what's going on here. That's a nasal infix verb. Why would I want to do that? I can't just keep guessing verbs. That'll be like throwing darts. Why can't I just find a good list of some that can be thematic? Here's a list of imperfective verbs, and now I just have to find a thematic one. So that's a lot easier. Oh, I forgot that one was. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Oh, I could have used that one too. This is not a fun one. That works too. Okay. Don't mind if I am looking at my phone every now and then just to check the verb. I want to make sure I'm not getting any of this wrong. Yeah, okay. Okay, I forgot that the O is here and the S. This is more of a thematic ending. This doesn't have an S there. Okay, so I'm going to use a different verb. I'm going to use the verb, and I didn't want to use this verb, but it is a thematic, so I'm going to use it. This is to be killing, to be striking down or taking down someone. All right, and here's how it. So the root here is this. Whoops. There we go. So I'm just taking that and putting it into the slot. A couple things happen with the stress. This here, stress moves to a suffix, it gets put there, and then you have 0 grade, because in the plural you usually get 0 grade. So it's like mos, nte, nenti. So you actually have stress here too. Yeah, okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take like each of these forms. I should have put them in a line, but I'm just so used to putting them in this grid when you're conjugating, because this is how you organize first, second, third person conjugation typically. I'm going to move these over. There we go. Okay. Now I can take this and put it on my change sheet and see what happens to these words. I'm going to have to add more columns first. Don't get laggy on me right now, please. All right. All right. So let's get started with these sound changes now. Okay, so if I don't do anything weird with the, or not weird, but if I don't do anything special with the conjugation endings here, then what the things are going to come out very irregular. So I'm probably going to end up doing some analogy with these endings, but I want to see what happens if I do sound change here just without changing anything about the conjugation, and this comes out to be like an irregular verb. That's what's going to happen here. So there are no pharyngeals, so I actually don't need to worry about like the vast majority of these rules. There's the nasal one over here that I need to pay attention to, and it's that between consonants, or between a consonant and a word boundary, a nasal consonant, or that's being treated syllabically, is going to become a U plus that nasal. So this is going to become mos. Okay. Same thing is going to happen here. That will not happen here because there's a vowel here after this N. Then I get rid of the labialization. Take out a little superscript W is all I need to do there. And then I gotta take it out here too. And then right after that, I also get rid of the aspiration, because there's a merger there as well. No, not all in there. Thank you. So this just becomes a normal G. Fun fact, this word in Germanic languages ends up with a B because of the labialization. And this becomes the verb banana, I think is what it is, banana. It's not this exact verb, but it's the same root in a different grade with a suffix, I think is what happens. This is where the word bane comes from. All right. That doesn't apply. Any S's between consonants or at word boundaries? Do we have to a consonant? No. Okay. So, vowel shift. Ganmi, gansi, ganti, gunmus, gunta, gnanti. Okay. Next thing that happens is nasal assimilation. So that's going to apply to this form, gammi. That's going to apply here, gummus. Then we have a stress shift. The stress is going to move in this word. It's going to be gummus. And it's going to shift here, gunta. Long vowels become short. There are no long vowels here. Obstruent, voicing assimilation. Word final R's now. Nothing here, nothing here. Plosive N becomes N plosive. In all cases? So this is Nganti. That's interesting. I don't think I planned for that to happen. Nganti. Interesting. I'll decide what I want to do with this. I didn't think about at the beginning of words, but that does happen quite a bit in Proto-Indo-European, so maybe I don't want this rule to be universal. I could just say except at the beginning of words. Yeah, because I like gnanti better. Anything else happen here? Is there any N's? S's N's after S's now. Or wouldn't actually have to replace it. Yeah. Because then we'd get gunanti here. And it would still be ananti just because of where the syllable weight is. It'd stay on gunanti. It's heavy penultimate, so it wouldn't be on gun. Okay. T's don't get voiced because there's an N there. Geminate consonants go away. This is just gami. And this is gumos. And then the S goes away. So the verb ends up looking like this. That is quite irregular. But if you want to think about it like within the logic of the language, so like the root ends up being gan, and then it has a alternation with gun in the plural, is what it looks like in the language. It looks like this. So it looks like the root is gan, and then it has a plural variant gun. And then because it's an N, the N gets replaced by the endings that start with M's. So mi and mu are the endings now, and the M supersedes the N. And that's the only rule you have to learn. So then what you learn is that the endings are mi, si, ti, mu, ta, and anti. So that's the paradigm, which is barely different from Proto-Indo-European at all. Like it's barely changed. Like this is the paradigm for the athematic verbs, which is just the only place, the only things that have changed are the S is gone from here and it's a U instead of an O, and the E has become an A, and we have an A in here. The E has become an A here too. So there's barely been any change. I don't know how much I like that. So I might need to do some more irregular stuff. But I think to decide what I want to do there, I think I need to look at some more verbs. And that's good because I have some more verbs to look at since I found that list. Yeah, to be pointing out something. Yes. I want to use that verb. Okay. So I'll just get started here. I'll get rid of that. Oh yeah. I need more columns. I'm just going to preemptively make a bunch more. All right. So I'm going to use the verb root dake. Oh, it needs an accent there. Yeah, dake. Dake me is that. So it's dake me. Dake see. Dake. D. Dik. Mos. Dik. Kenti. Oops. Kenti. All right. So the root is dake, to point out, and that E grade turns into a 0 grade in the plural, just like that happened with the other verb that we just did before as well. So let's take this through its changes. The only change that applies way back here is the palatal thing. So it becomes dake me. Just gonna copy all of these and then turn these into C's. And then actually these I's are more like yeah, they're consonants technically, so there. Okay. Final S goes away. Wait, no, that's not what happens there. It's not between a consonant and word boundary. Yeah, no, we don't have anything like that yet. But what we do have is the stress shift. Not the stress shift, the vowel shift. Okay, and then no nasal assimilation here. Stress here moves. Ichmos, dichita. No long vowels. No obstruent assimilation needed. Alright, so we have some stuff with J's. Oh, I was gonna have this before or after, I think, is what the idea was. No, I wasn't gonna have that. There's something I want to do with like S in contact with the palatal. I can't remember if I already did something like that, but we'll see in just a second. Alright, so these become affricates. Deich me. Deich. C. Deich C. Deich T. Deich T. Oh, why am I still marking the stress? I don't need to anymore after this point. Deich C. Deich T. Dichmus. Dichta. Dichanti. Okay. What else happens? I'm gonna say that it's after sibilants in general. Sibilants in general, because I don't like the sound of dichmus. I want it to be dichumus. Dichumus. These are really thick words. This is like a thick cluster. Yeech. Yeechs. Yeechs. Yeecht. Yeecht. Actually, you know what might happen? I think what's gonna happen is, don't freeze on me now. Okay. I think what I'm gonna have happen is that ch and j are gonna become just plain fricatives before a consonant, to kind of cut down on the clusters a little bit. So it just becomes daishmi instead of daichmi. Daish. See, this is still awkward because of the sh, but I'll deal with that, I think, in some way as well. Daish. Dishmus. I'm a lot more okay with dishmo. But since I do it with S, I should probably do it with sh as well. Dishmo. No, I'll turn it back to S. I don't need to worry about this anymore, I think, as much. Dishta. Ooh, and then this one will stay. Ooh, okay, this is going to create some weird irregularity now. Dichanti. Dichanti. The next thing that happens is the dropping of the S. So, dishmo. And how was I spelling sh again? Was it with an X? Yes, it was with X. Okay. Daishmi, daishsi, daishti, dishmo, dishta, chanti, and I think I am using C for the ch, so yeah, the chanti. So the root is now daich, but in all the forms except when you have a C, I guess the rule is, in all the forms except for this last form, the C turns into an X. Okay. Let's do one more. A thematic verb. Because I'm starting to get some ideas about how I want to change the endings to reflect, some like grammatical shift over time, not just like some like morphological changes that are going on as well. Ooh, that one doesn't do metathesis. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. All right. I'm going to use the verb for speak. It's going to be to. All right. This one has a laryngeal in it, so yeah, I wanted to do at least one with a laryngeal in it. Oops. This one doesn't do the move of where the stress is. It stays where it is in the present. My Wiktionary thinks that all of these do that, actually. I don't know about that. No, it does do metathesis. Yeah. Yeah, it does. Okay. I was gonna say that feels off. It just gets analogized out is what happens with that one over time. Okay, so first things first, it's gonna be a long A. All of these are gonna turn to a long A. No, not all of these are gonna turn to a long A. These are going to turn to long A. Oops, not there. Here. Not like that either. Okay. Alright, now what happens with H2 is it just becomes an H over here. And that's going to be interesting for... Oh wait, no, they're not going to get a chance to, because this H before nasal here is going to turn into an O before that nasal. Okay, that's interesting. This one's not going to do that. Okay, these two are going to turn to H. I put this in the wrong row. All right. So this is like super unpronounceable. Well, actually, not super unpronounceable, but difficult to pronounce. This one. Something's going to happen there. Oh, I can see what's going to happen there. Oh, that's fun. That is fun. Okay. What happens is first all of these have to get rid of their aspiration. These just become a normal A. And then what happens next is this doesn't do anything. Oops, I made a mistake. Way up here. That should be S. This happens, which is interesting. That's really interesting. Bthe, bthe. H becomes nothing. Before plosive fricative verb initially, between consonants. So nothing happens to this H, really. Okay. That H is going to stick around for a minute then. I don't think anything's going to happen until... Oh, that's going to be a weird cluster. It's going to be a weird cluster, so what's going to happen? Let's see. I might need to add some more rules to fix this up, so nothing changes with these, actually. This becomes vamos. Tha and Bahanti. No nasal assimilation. Stress needs to move here. Vamos. No stress needs to be here because this is one syllable. Okay, long vowels become short. Bami, basi, bati. Okay, obstruent assimilation. So we have two obstruents next to each other, like a plosive and a fricative, for example. The first obstruent becomes the voiced the way that the second obstruent is. So here we have a voiced and then unvoiced, and we have voiced and unvoiced. In both cases, both of these B's are going to turn into P's to match the unvoicing of the next consonant. So this is just going to be a really weird verb. I'm glad we did one of these with an H2. It's H2 that causes this to happen, and H3. It's just H1 that gets off the hook. And now I really want to do one with H1. Okay. Let's see. Anything else fun happen? Oh, there's no consonant to protect this T from voicing to D. Interesting. Okay. And then the S goes away here. So we have a bami, bazi. Oh, and I didn't write this out, but S between, yeah. Oh, no, I did write it out. It becomes a Z. I just spelled it with an S. Badi, bamu, psa, and panti. Okay, nothing happens to that H. Something might need to happen to that H. But this cluster is allowed. I think we literally have words with that cluster. Oh, wait. No, because theta becomes S after plosive. So it becomes, forgot this rule, becomes psa. Like in psal. Psal meaning father. Psa. Okay. Ooh. Okay, this is really interesting. Bami bazi badi. Bamu psa panti. Alright, okay. I think I need to do one with H1 that's not gonna like stay an H and devoice things, just to see how that will come out as well. And I know they exist. I know they exist. I know these verbs exist. Idiomatic verbs. That one's a nasal and an H. I need to try that out. Oh, but that's an H1, so the H is going to go away real early. Okay, I do want to try this verb out. I do want to see how this verb will come out. But I'm gonna make up I'm gonna do the thing I was gonna do initially and use this verb for to put. It's like to be putting, without the reduplication like I'm supposed to. I'm gonna say that maybe the dialect of Proto-Indo-European that this language came from did something weird. I just want to see how it comes out. With this H1, I'm really curious, so I'm gonna try this out. The okay. And there's another verb I want to try right after. So first step is it becomes long E in these forms. Oh my goodness. So finicky. Okay. That does not happen here or here. Okay. We have the O thing happening here again. And then H1 disappears everywhere else. So it becomes, I'm gonna have some voicing assimilation again probably, and then here it just goes away. Let's get rid of the aspiration. Nothing's going to protect that D either. Alright, and then we're going to have the vowel shift. Dasi. Dati. Can I not type the length marker? There we go. Damos. Ta. Danti. Okay. And then stress shift. Move it to damos. Length goes away. Dami. Dasi. Dati. Obstruent assimilation. Da. Duh. Duh. Okay. Alright. Nothing else really happens. Until we get here where it's gonna be Dazi and Dadi. And nothing happens there. Da. Just ta. Damo. Alright, so our verb is now dami, dazi, dadi, damo, ta, and danti. Alright. Okay. So what I'm going to do... Oh, there was one more verb I wanted to look at in this aspect. And that is... just making sure I got it right. Yeah. Yeah. Han, which means breathe. This is a useful verb. All right, this is going to be really fun. So I have these like ooh, that's the last row. Wow, okay. Or column, I mean. I have these really early on nasal plus pharyngeal rule, and it's the nasal followed by a laryngeal that applies first. So I need to make sure I do that. So first, it's going to be nasal followed by laryngeal, which is N, nasal followed by A. All right. All right, and that's also going to play here. Oops. Jumping the gun a little bit there. Now that does a really weird vowel thing too. It does a really weird vowel thing there. And then the next thing that happens is that laryngeal followed by a nasal changes to O followed by that nasal. So these are also going to change to O-N. 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 Okay. Now what happens is the H2 turns into H. It's an H that's not there in the plural at all. Henami, henasi, henati, onamos, onate, onainti. Okay. Now, there's no Slavic nasals anymore, even though we used to have a bunch. And then we have, the next thing that happens is the vowel shift. H becomes nothing where boundaries followed by a consonant. Well, there are none left in that situation, so no. All right, so this is going to be hanami, hanasi, hanati, anamus, anate, anai. Wait, no. Anata. And anaanti, which I think is going to just get reread as a vowel, a long vowel, which will get shortened. Is that what I do? Is that what I did over here? I had situations like that way back here. Like way back here. Yeah. I had some ones that have like a ridiculous amount of the same vowel happening. Oh, did I get rid of that word? I think I got rid of that word. I had like 3 I's in a row at one point in one of my pronouns, I think. And I was just like, I'm just not even going to use this pronoun anymore. But I think I established a thing where if it's two next to each other, they're just going to be read as the same. They have different stress is the thing here. Ananti. I think I'll keep those separate for now. If I don't like how it comes out, I'll change it. Alright, shift the stress. And this stress goes all the way back here. It becomes anamus. Anata. And that's still heavy, so that doesn't move. Okay. No long vowels, unless we want to count. This is a long vowel. No consonants in contact with each other. Now, what's interesting is there's now nothing stopping not only this T, but also this T from voicing. So the verb is now hanami, hanami, hanazi, hanadi, anamu, anada, and anaandi, or sorry, anaanti. That is a weird verb. So the root of this verb is hana. Hana, which loses its H in the plural. And the endings are mi, si, di, muda, anti. Here they were mi, si, di, muta, anti. Mi, si, di, musa, anti. Mi, si, ti, muta, anti. Mi, si, ti, muta, anti. Okay. See, what I want to do, now that I have these, is I'm going to put these into those little charts that I was looking at earlier, like at the beginning of today. Let's go back to conjugation. All right. Well, how did I end up way down there? Okay. Okay. What's the next one? Daishmi, daishsi, daishti. Dishma, dishta. Next one was Buzzy Buddy. It's a mess. That verb is a mess. This one is almost perfect, but then this guy jumps in to be like, nope. And then the last one we looked at was this one. All right. So here's what I'm thinking about. So these are all the in Proto-Indo-European, these are what we call the imperfective endings. So the aspect is like it is something that is happening over time or habitually. But these are the forms that sort of gave rise to the present tense in a lot of the Indo-European languages that come from Proto-Indo-European. Like it just becomes a simple present rather than this sort of like imperfective type thing. So but in the process, a lot of the languages get rid of a lot of the sort of vowel parts of the endings, especially the I's. They might do some kind of vowel affection with the I, but then they'll get rid of the I. Or they might not. They'll just completely get rid of it sometimes. And that's harder to do with these verbs that like are end in consonants, except for the ones that have laryngeals that become vowel ending, and for the most part at least, not all the way. But it's tricky. I think what would be good to compare now is thematic verbs, which are a lot more common in later Indo-European languages, so we can reconstruct them. We can reconstruct a lot more of them, even though a lot of people are pretty sure that they're like the later kind of verb. Or at least have the idea that they're the later kind of verb. Let me see if I can filter by that type of verb. No. Another thing to think about is like a different aspect. Like if I want to look at the perfective aspect, or I don't know. The stative, I can look at the stative forms. That could be fun as well. And those reduplicate in Proto-Indo-European a lot of the time. All right, I think I want to look at the thematic though. So let's go back to change. And let's look at a thematic verb. Let's look at the verb that means to be alive. That's a fun one. Yeah, it has H3. Oh, wait, no. Let's use that. All right, there we go. And so what makes these thematic is they have what's called a theme vowel. Here it's O, but for all these other ones it's E. And in the plural it goes back to being O for the first person. And then it's O for the third person plural as well. So what's different as well with these thematic verbs is that they don't have a stress shift in any of these forms. It keeps the stress sort of like consistent with itself. And the thing with these thematic verbs is they're often like derived from nouns or adjectives. So like this comes from the word for like alive. So it's like to be alive. So let's apply some sound changes. So that just becomes a long O, doesn't it? Yeah. Nothing fancy with H2 there. Just it's gonna be a long O. Oh, this I will be long as well. So I before H3 just becomes a long I. Well, that's gonna happen everywhere, isn't it? Okay. So let's just do this. No, it's not what I wanted. All right, there we go. Now all I need is the length mark. I just put it where it goes. All right, and then this language also has a since it's Satem, it's gonna get rid of the W here. And then we have a vowel shift. All right. Since the root for all these is the same, I'm just going to copy paste it. T. Okay. Then we have stress. Stress does not shift. It's. Oh wait, no. Yes, it does. Stress does shift. The heavy penultimates are going to get the stress, which is only here. And then we get rid of length. So giwa, giwa, giwasi, giwati, giwamas, giwata, giwanti. None of that. Okay. U situation. So W becomes V. Giva. Givasi. Givati. Givamas. Givamas. Givata. Givanti. Nothing else happens until the elimination of these. So it's Givazi, Givadi, Givazi, Givadi, Givada, Givama. Okay, so now the conjugation of this is Giva, Givazi, Givadi, Givama, Givada, Givanti. This is how you say live. Okay, and most thematic, like pretty much all the thematic verbs are going to have this going on with them, where it's just going to be these exact endings. A, azi, adi, ama, ada, anti. And there's not really going to be exceptions because of how they work. So the reason I wanted to look at that is I wanted to like compare the paradigms between these two. Because we have a thing going on with the endings here. Because of all of like the rules that come in to mess with consonants in contact versus not in contact. So if I wanted to say like what are the athematic endings, they're these. Pretty yeah. There's some weird stuff with these two verbs, but this is like so bizarrely irregular that I feel like the language would, even if these were irregular verbs, like they would smooth them out a little bit to be something like this. something like that would happen. Oh yeah, but that would be, yeah. And these would stay ta because there is a hidden consonant there. I guess that was a ta as well. Yeah. I think what would happen is because there's like an underlying consonant here, it might, well, no, the language would forget that it's an underlying consonant. So I think what would happen is that they would analogize to be like as if it were a vowel. I think that's what would happen, and it would be that when it's in contact with another consonant, it doesn't turn into D. So like the ending is T unless it's intervocalic, then it's D. And same with this one. And I guess this too, technically, it's like between being pronounced C versus Z, but that's just an allophonic variation in the language itself. Now, if we're going to compare that to the thematic ending, it's A, Azi, Adi, Ama, Ada, Anti. So we're still kind of following the rules with D and T here. It's just because there's always a vowel, it's always going to be D. And same with the S here. The difference, though, is like the vowel here with the form that's we, and obviously the A versus just me. And the thing that you can say there is that if the you could probably have some analogy. This happens in Indo-European languages where verbs like this, they'll just like do that instead, because it's like, oh, there's a consonant, so you can be fine, just you don't need me there. But if it's a vowel, then you do need me. And then they rewrite it so that me is not the athematic versus oh being the thematic. It becomes like me is for vowels and o is for consonants. That can happen. If you think underlyingly this has an N, it could be like that as well. But these are still these are like very irregular verbs anyway, because they're also like they have a different stem in the singular versus the plural. Whereas these ones, just because of the sound changes, end up, even though they have different stems in the singular and plural, they merge to be the same between the singular and the plural, and that's why that's fine. And these ones do not, actually, though. I think what would probably happen is either the H would carry over to all forms, or no H would carry on over to all forms. I do like it with an H better because of its meaning. It means to breathe. And I think I would say this verb can analogize to just be, it can be reanalyzed as thematic. And then this extra A goes away. Now it's a thematic verb that kind of follows after the pattern of, whoops, let's move these down first. Yeah, so now it's a thematic verb, and the root is now han, hanazi, hanadi, hanama, hanada, hananti. There's a part of me that is not happy with how discordant, because of the stress shift, how discordant the third person plural form sounds, that I almost want it to be different. Like maybe we get rid of the T. Hanani. Givani. Gonani. Dichani. Why is the T going away? Who knows? Or maybe it doesn't go away, but it something happens with it. not sure. I think what I want to do, I want it to have the same prosody as the other ones. Givazi, givadi, givama, givada, givani, givati, givanti. What if the N preserves the T and then the N goes away, but it's still a T? Konati, deshati, hanati, hanadi versus hanati. I'm trying to think of like things that other Indo-European languages do with this form, because the N does, like, the nasalization creates a different vowel sometimes, or the T does go away sometimes. I'm trying to think of what I could do. How do I make this a light syllable? The only thing I can think of is getting rid of the T or getting rid of the N. Or using a different ending here. Something weird happens with the third person ending where it takes it from a different tense or aspect. If it takes from the state of ending, because I like the state of ending. So the state of ending is like a long ER, which probably comes from ERS. Let me just see how the ending comes through. The sound changes, and it's stressed. I'll see. I want to look at both. Oh, nothing's going to be different. Nothing's going to be different between the two, so I don't need both columns. H goes away, right? Oh, the H doesn't go away. Maybe I do need both. Because this would be... I thought there would be the same... Oh, you know what? Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Yeah, I'm going to take it from that ending, and it's going to become an R, yeah. And I'm going to keep the I there, on analogy with the other forms in the boot that I was talking about earlier. I kind of don't want this. I want it to be. I want it to be irregular. You know what could happen here? These two could get reanalyzed as. I kind of have two options. I could reanalyze these as thematic, and change these to be like really short, irregular regular first person singular forms, ba and da, and then they just take these thematic endings. Or I could leave them as irregulars. I still want to change these to R. I'm doing something weird. I'm taking the stative endings and using them for the active endings. That's okay. Indo-European languages have done weirder things with their verb conjugation, like Italian verbs taking all of their first person plural forms from the subjunctive for some reason. So okay, yeah, I think I am happier with these being irregular. Some irregular verbs. This in Proto-European, this is kill, killing, showing or pointing out, speaking, and putting. But this is like my weird version of the word for put. And I can change the meaning somewhat. But these are the ending forms. So regular sort of thematic verbs are going to use these endings. Irregular verbs can use these endings. The last thing I want to do is decide whether I want these I's still there or not. I think I like them. Not a ton of Indo-European languages keep them anymore, but I like them. I think my infinitive is going to come from tum, which I do a lot, and I have a friend who I've made or helped make conlangs with that use it as well. We like to use it a lot, PIE langs, but it's a tried and true and it's a good one. I like it, so I'm going to use tum. And so what I'm going to do is above each of these verbs, I'm going to put a the infinitive form just to define the verb. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have two columns. Like I did with declension, I'm going to have two columns. And it's going to go, or sorry, two rows. All right. So I'm going to leave some space in case I do want a bar here. But for now, I'm just going to have to merge cells. I think that's what's going to happen. I'm going to have to merge cells. I could just put them all in one column, even though it's not how I like to organize them. So I'm going to do it, yeah. Yeah. So this is Antum. That would just be Antum, wouldn't it? I should have one for type as well above. Actually, we'll do that at the end. All right. I don't love dash C. I'm just going to get rid of the S there. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just going to say S goes away after the X. At least in this verb paradigm. kind of like how we had the rule of the MN deleting before M. But that's the ending superseding the verb. Here it's the other way around. Like I don't want it to be dicey. Okay, and then we have badum. Yeah, badum. that really does make it sound like a thematic. I think maybe to show that it's a thematic, I keep the T keep the etymological voicelessness of it, just to show that it's athematic. Batum. And then when people are learning this language, they'll be like, why is it a T? And I'll be like, oh, because it's irregular. It's like, oh yeah, it's a thematic noun, so that's why it's batum. Body. But it's like barely thematic. Barely athematic, I mean. Move out of the way for now, please. Thank you. Thanks for putting up with my antics right now. It's probably super interesting to watch me do, huh? Copy these over. Damu, dada, dari. These are so close to just being thematic. I'm just gonna make them thematic. Yeah, why not just make them thematic? It's so much easier. And they'll just be like really cool short verbs, like ba means I speak. That's cool. Da means I put. Then we'll have to breathe. Hanadum, hana, hanazi, hanadi, hanama, hanada, hanari. And then we have thematic. To live, jivadum. Jivama, jivada, jivari. So we have our patterns. I don't need to write these anymore. Do is I'm gonna block these off. Do I need to? Not really, no. I am gonna block this off though, because I'm gonna probably want more tenses and stuff down the road. So I need to move this down. If it will listen to me, thank you. There we go. All right, infinitive. And then all of these are, in proto-Indo-European at least, these are like imperfective aspect. Part of me wants to keep the PIE aspect distinction rather than turning it into a tense one. The issue is I've already taken the stative one, so I can't really do the stative as its own thing unless I want to like somehow take the medial passive and make that into the stative. They have similar endings to each other, so I could see that happening. Like the medial passive becomes like a he conjugation, like what happened in Hittite. I could do that. I think I might do that, yeah. So I'll still have like imperfective. I'll type it out. I have room. What if I want it space? Yeah, I'll just do the abbreviation. So I think I'll do imperfective. Then I'll do perfective. And then I'll do stative. I think that's what I'll do. So it's active and stative. Active, imperfective, perfective, and then stative. I'll figure out if I want to do a subjunctive or not. I don't know how I feel about that. I usually, like, I love having a subjunctive mood, but I don't know, something about this language just makes me not want to do one. And do some kind of periphrastic thing instead. Yeah, but I'll figure that out later. And next time we come back to this conlang, I'll give the update on what I did for these, because I am going to try to figure these out on my own, and then I'll explain how it works. So that is where we'll be stopping for today. I'm like 10 minutes over, so that's fun. So yeah, thank you for tuning in. If you were here in person, and if you're here watching on YouTube later, as always, feel free to leave comments in the comment section below the YouTube video. I like hearing people's comments, and if you have suggestions for more Yesterlore episodes, that is always welcome. And yeah, check out the stuff that is linked below. I'm going to be, like I said, next week returning to Yesterlore next week to do a ancient Egyptian hieroglyphic read, so that will be fun. But if you have more suggestions for Yesterlore stuff, let me know. Or journal stuff you want me to see me do. There we go. That's how it works in English, huh? So yes, that is all for today. Thank you for watching. Thank you again to FishyLawnGnome for supporting on Patreon, and I hope you all have a great rest of your whatever time zone you were in. Thank you, and farewell.